We are now live. Yeah, we are now live. So, called the meeting to order at like 3:39. First thing on the agenda, open forum. Anybody have anything they want to talk about that's not already on the agenda?
I do.
What do you got?
A couple quick questions. We had talked in the past about using Google accounts to authenticate and log into Windows machines. Is that something that's still in the works?
That is something we're going to test and possibly implement this summer.
Cool. I'm volunteering the machines in 208 to be part of that test bed.
Okay.
And I would also be interested in doing something like that with the Macs.
Which I
in
believe
202. That would be just as we're cleaning up at the end of the year and thinking about next year, and manually purging local accounts. That might be a huge time saver and a matter of convenience for people that walk into the lab to use it.
Yeah, if it works out, I'd like to get it set up everywhere. Really don't want to maintain a Windows domain anymore. We don't need to. What else? Anything else?
No, unless you're coming over to fix my internet. I guess that was it for now.
Not today. Might want to So if that's all, that closes up open forum. Old business. We need to make a filtering recommendation to the school committee. So I was going to log into our filter. Well, let's talk about filtering a little bit. Right now, we do filtering through Securely. How is filtering working for everybody? Are your kids having any issues?
At the high school, it seems to be pretty good. Like, I haven't really run across any issues. Like, there was one time something this year that I just shot an email over to you guys and you fixed it, but it seems to be like
generally that's
on point.
That's what I've been hearing.
I know this is like a little bit of an aside here, but like some kids' Chromebooks, they just go on to Secure, and the kids that are on Secure always have a problem. And then it always seems like there's at least repeat kids that can't seem to get onto the student network. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if it's them or if it's something about their Chromebook or they don't know the password or what they're supposed to do, but
we are going to redo wireless authentication this summer too. So we should have a new solution in place by the time we get back.
Okay, great.
Because what we have now, kind of broken. The networks are kind of all over the place and don't work very well. We're going to switch to the new IP scheme and change the way people log in and push those settings out to the laptop, so they should all just work, hopefully.
Great.
Knock on some wood.
Can I ask a question for clarification?
Yeah.
Is the with the Securely filter, and by the way, I'll say that filtering has been a non-issue really for me and for students in my class, unless they happen to attach to Chrome or yes, but other than that, it's been a non-issue. But is with Securely, aren't they really authenticating using their Google account, and is it less relevant? Like, isn't that what the filtering is based on, not necessarily the network itself?
So that is part of the problem, is that Secure uses DNS filtering, and the kids have the clients for Securely pushed out to all their Chromebooks, so it's trying to do it twice. And that's why they end up having weird internet connectivity issues, because it's reaching out to securely through the securely Chrome extension, and it's going through securely DNS servers, and it gets confused sometimes, and that's why things don't work as well as they should. So if we get to the point where we don't have to use, the only place we're using securely DNS filtering is on the guest network, then we should be good, because it securely just works as long as you have the extension installed. And if you're a student and you sign into a Vice, you have the extension installed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I got to find a different spot. My neighbor's calling.
Okay.
So Jeremy, I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is related to the filtering or whatever, but what I have really loved this year is that if I find a video I want students to watch and it's not approved, I have the ability to approve it for students.
Yeah, that was a feature that Google rolled out last year, and we turned it on for all the staff. That was during COVID.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been really nice. Like, you can, like, the kids are still restricted, so they're not watching stuff that's age inappropriate by default, but then the teacher can go say, yes, I want them to see this video.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's a really nice feature. I like it. All right, so I'm going to share my window here. I will describe everything we're seeing so that Art can see it too. Here. Security Safety Console. So this is what I use, well, what we use to manage securely. And you can see, the top visited site is always Google, followed closely by YouTube. And you can see which students get flagged the most, or have today anyway. The top block sites, top block searches, how much traffic went out through each policy. And these are things that get flagged. Now we have they have a whole component that we have not turned on with these flagged activities that are intended to flag self-harm and all this stuff, but we haven't turned on any of that because we haven't really talked about how we would manage that. And like, if we're going to turn it on, then someone has to respond to it. And there's no way to set a time for it. It's on 24/7. So who are we going to assign to deal with an alert over the weekend?
So, holy cow.
Yeah.
First of all, like, I'm looking at this and so somebody got flagged for searching breast cancer. All right. But then I'm looking at like how to build a bomb.
Right.
I mean, but then again, I guess the kids have no expectation of privacy, right? That's like pretty much in the terms of service.
That is in the terms of service. But at the same time, I don't like to go look at their activity unless there's a reason to. I normally don't go searching through anybody's activity without a request from another administrator with a good reason. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, boy, this is a minefield.
Right. And that's why we have the notifications turned off. There's no expectation right now that anyone's going to see any alerts for anything or do anything about any of it. But it's available and we could turn on alerts. But the problem that a lot of school districts have run into, and this is why we started with it turned off, is who's going to manage it? Like, who's going to get the alerts and act on them 24/7? And what do we do if it gets missed and something happens? Is there a liability there? I don't know. Seems like a minefield.
it seems like there's an implied liability just because we're having the conversation about it.
Well, not really, because we like it's our job to advise the school committee, and if our advice is that, you know, this is, I would not turn on those alerts without some kind of clarification on our liability for having the alerts. That's our recommendation. I think that's where I'm at. I think that's the executive decision I made, and if you guys don't have a differing opinion, then we'll stick with that until we hear otherwise.
I don't even know what to like really think here.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I saw that Matthias Baum is looking at how to build a bomb. What am I supposed to do with that?
What's anybody supposed to do with that? Like, I'm going to have to do something about that now that I saw it.
Right. I mean, like, you got to, right? Like, I don't know. I guess I would punt and talk to the superintendent about it or something, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I think the real question is, you guys have a much better pulse on the social emotional state of our students. Do we have issues that we're not dealing with and not catching? Like, is this like, should there be a psychologist who gets these alerts and checks into them, or you think we're good the way we are? Or should I talk to the psychologist?
I agree with Bob that I think this should get punted up higher, because I do get concerned that if something happened and people knew we had the ability to monitor this and we're choosing not to, it's kind of like sticking our head in the sand.
I mean,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to get at.
but here's the thing. We already stuck our head in the sand when we said, no, we don't want GoGuardian. Like, the tools are there. They always have been.
So I'm not in favor of being the person that responds to it, and generally I'm not in favor of probably that level of oversight. But having said that, because we knew the tools were there and we chose to leave them off, or we recommended to leave them off, are we then liable for missing something if something catastrophic happens? Because had we made the right choice, or the whatever recommendation that legal counsel is going to say, hey, if you made the right choice, you could have intervened.
Well, I mean, I don't.
We are under no obligation to do it right now. There's no legal
I
obligation for us to monitor that.
I don't feel like I'm so much concerned about the liability, just because, you know, we have insurance for stuff like that anyway. And,
right,
you know, the odds of stuff like that happening, I guess I'm more concerned about, like, could we make a rules-based, I mean, presumably, right, like, you could set something up so that, like, if a particular thing came up, Jeremy, an email would go to a certain person. I mean,
so how does that work? I've never even set up Auditor. So it allows you to monitor your students' email and drive for signs of bullying, self-harm, grief, violence, and nudity in just a few easy steps. And what it does is it uses its AI. They say it's AI. It's really just rules-based searching. And it goes through all the email and drive and looks for whatever they've decided flags to flag, basically. I don't know that there's a heck of a lot of customization there. I do know that people who have turned it on have then proceeded to turn it off because of the concerns I was mentioning. So when setting up securely, I didn't even go through this setup Auditor because we don't have a plan in place to deal with it.
Can I just?
Go ahead, Don.
I was just going to say, I could see how turning the auditor on could be problematic too, because I noticed one of the top searches that was flagged was what does the anus do? And I would bet they're all middle school students who just took my test on the digestive system, right?
So, let's say we did have these alerts going to people, and they're going to need to know that you just taught that,
Right.
or that somebody is maybe somebody's searching for guns, but it turns out that they're looking at what kind of gun was used in history and for a history paper or something. I don't know. Like that kind of stuff comes up all the time.
Right. I mean, I think it's
And
really,
they do positional like essays too, like against guns, and so they're going to be researching it. So if you just search the word gun, it's going to come up that way.
Right. So it's a lot of work for somebody. It isn't going to be technology because that's not our purview. So if you're comfortable with just kicking that up to the superintendent for a call, we can do that.
yeah, maybe he could meet with us and see what or maybe just with you, Jeremy, whatever you think. But I mean, it could definitely, it's a minefield. I guess I'm concerned about, would it help us? I'm really concerned like about the kids that are like looking to self-harm or something like that. Or,
Right. So getting back to, now that we've decided we're not going to go there, and I'll talk to the superintendent about how he wants to handle it. We'll move on to the actual recommendation of the school committee. So what we tried to do was clone the rules that we had made a decision about from the old web filter. And I think we did a pretty good job. Oh, this is where you can search through the active. Like if somebody said, hey, my kid I need you to go look into a kid's history, this is where you can do it from. And then the policy editor is where everything gets set. So you can set up your policies by network if you're using DNS filtering, or by these custom policies. Why is that? That is a terrible name for a policy. Anyway, so the staff policy basically says there's no filtering off-site. So the take-home policy doesn't apply. Off-campus filtering is off. Technically, a teacher can sign in and approve a site on a student's Chromebook. I don't know that we have the tool in place to let you do that, but it's something that's available. And it's just very, very unrestricted. The only category we're blocking is pornography because it's required to by law. We're not doing any kind of YouTube, unrestricted access to YouTube. So that's the staff policy. And we have some students for whom social media work was becoming a problem, and administrators have asked us to restrict them. So that's why we created the no social media policy. It's the same as the high school policy, but also blocks the social media sites more at home too, which they it was like at the request of parents, so that's there. The default high school policy, we don't should be good. So you can only have one take-home policy, and we're excluding high school students from the take-home policy because we're still applying their regular policy while they're off campus. The way it was explained to me is the take-home policy is for devices that bring your own device type devices where you don't want to filter them at home. Oh, that's why that's there. Oh, the flags for gun-related, like all these things are off. Flag gun-related searches is off. No 10-minute bans. It does. We do have keyword scanning turned on, which and redirects their searches to safe search. So if they search for something like like your example earlier, the word anus, it's going to bring them to the anatomical stuff and not, the pages and pages of porn results that have the same word in it. And then for categories, we're blocking pornography, we're blocking gambling, we're blocking network misuse, chats and messaging, hate, other search engines so that they can't get around the restrictions on Google Safe Search. And that's pretty much it at the high school, the senior. I think that's both the senior and the junior high school. And then these are this is like we've only had to manually allow and block a handful of sites because they're pretty good at categorizing things. And then the YouTube is set to moderate access. So it blocks things that are adult, but not really anything else. So are we good with the high school policy the way it is? Do you see anything you might want to change? Have any questions?
I'm pretty content with it. I think it's been fine.
I mean, that's basically where we were at with, iBoss had much more granular control over what you were blocking, but I feel like Securely does a much better job of categorizing things, so we don't need that much control, unless there's a category that we, it seems like it does what we needed to do.
I think Securely does a better job of any that we've ever used of staying out of the way. It does its job, but it does it unobtrusively.
Yeah.
It's a non-issue.
And then we have the Metcalf policy, which blocks pornography, it blocks gambling, it blocks other adult content, it blocks social media, social networking, network misuse, chat messaging, blocks hates, blocks other search engines. That's really, and then the YouTube access is set to strict, so it's even more stringent. They're not going to be able to go see racy music videos or whatever. I don't really know how Google sets those levels, but that's where it is. And then there's this categories section, and we're not blocking any particular categories, so on YouTube. Any questions or comments about the Metcalf policy? Okay. And then the elementary take-home policy was applied to all of the devices that we gave out over COVID, and it was set the same as the default policy, which is what you get when you're not on guest, because that's separate. But if you're just on a network but not signed in securely and not a teacher's network, this is what you would get. So, I mean, there's only a handful, like the computer labs might end up with this. The Chrome network would end up with this, and that's about it. And this is the default policy at Wavalum and Linum for students. It blocks pornography, drugs, gambling, other adult content, social media, social networking, network misuse, and chat and messaging, hate, and other search engines. And there's a couple of websites that people have asked us to block and allow to block. So we blocked those, like Discord was becoming a problem. Roblox was becoming a problem. And then YouTube is set for strict. It's almost, it looks exactly the same as Metcalfe's policy. So, yeah. And then for faculty and staff, when you're not running the securely extension, we're not blocking anything except porn and malicious network traffic. Like if you click on a spam link that's already been recognized by one of the security companies, it won't let you get there. That kind of thing, just to keep hackers out of the network. So that's really all we're blocking. We're using Umbrella for that right now, or we were using Umbrella up until February, when I noticed that that was actually what was causing a lot of our network slowdowns. Was DNS was taking forever. We are still using Umbrella, but we also added in Quad 9 to the mix. And as a territory DNS provider, we're using Ocean, who I'm not sure who they're using for upstream, but it seems to be filtered the same way that Quad 9 and Umbrella are. I recently signed up with, let me find that email. The Center for Internet Security's Malicious Domain Blocking and Reporting, which is basically the same thing. It's filtered DNS. It blocks out malicious. I don't know that it blocks porn. I believe it does. I'll have to check into that. But my plan here is to stop using Umbrella, because we can't use it for more than just staff anymore, because you have to have the DNS filtering through to get securely to do guest network filtering. So, and you can't multi-layer. I tried multi-layering the DNS lookups, but it just doesn't work. So we're not getting the benefit of having Umbrella that we were before. We might as well use the free one from the federal government. Stop paying $3,000 a year for Umbrella, and hopefully we can take that money and redirect it to something like KnowBe4, which might actually be of some benefit to the district. So that is where we're at with filtering. Any questions, comments, concerns? Then you can see under policy map how these policies get mapped to the Google domain. Which would be under so you can see, yeah. So the choice school. Junior high school gets high school policy. Senior high school gets the high school policy. You can see where we had to create the no social media to move kids into, to keep them, the kids who needed to be restricted. And then same thing at the elementary, gets the elementary take-home policy. And then Metcalfe policy applies to grades 5, 6. That's what they must have wanted more, less restricted access for grades 5 and 6 at Metcalf, and that's why we set it up the way we did. So, any questions, concerns? Should I write this up as our recommendation? The way it is now?
I mean, unless there've been complaints from the elementary school, then I would say, yeah, because high school and junior high seem to be working good.
I haven't had any complaints, so. I occasionally get teachers asking me to block the games category, but there's so many educational games that get caught in that. It's easier to just block the current hotness that the kids have found than to block the games category. Because we that was something that we did have restricted before during the day as a distraction from learning. And it just, so many educational games got blocked. It became a problem. So that's why I changed that.
That makes sense.
All right. So cool. Anybody disagree with that? Writing up what we have now as our recommendation?
I'm good with that.
So we have a consensus. That's good. I will do so. Budget update. We have budget. I'm hoping that either at tonight's school meeting, I didn't look at the agenda yet, but either at tonight's school committee meeting or the following school committee meeting, they're going to take the funds that we had assigned for this school year to buy Promethean boards at Metcalf and move those funds into the capital budget so I can place that order. I have not placed the order only because I'm waiting for that to happen. Because if I order them out of this school year's budget, it will hold up the audit until those get delivered. And if I hold up the audit till September, Tish will be upset with me. I don't want to do that. So as soon as that money, those funds get moved, I'm planning to place an order. As far as what to buy, we'll talk about that under the classroom technology update. Any questions about the budget? No. Technology projects update. We've got a ton of projects going on. I talked a little bit about some of them at the beginning of the meeting. This summer, we've got 2 new data center servers coming in. We're looking at switching away from VMware. We're planning to do a reorganization of how IP addresses get pushed out to the network. We're going to add a little bit more security about how traffic flows through the network so that if somebody jumps on, is able to compromise a student password, they won't have any access to our file servers because students don't need access to our file servers. Even teachers don't need access to our file servers normally. Anybody who's out and in a school who needs access to a file server will actually be VPNing. So like the office computers at Metcalf will VPN into the data center to be able to use anything we have in the data center, unless we've got it set up through Cloudflare. So through a tunnel through Cloudflare. So basically we're going to get rid of all the holes that allow people into our network that aren't secure. And hopefully reduce our attack surface. But yeah, that's the plan for this summer. It should be busy. It's also a Windows computer update year. We're going to refresh all those. Except I don't think I put in to refresh the lab in 208 art because I haven't heard any complaints about it. Maybe next year.
No, those machines still rock, and I think they're only going on their 3rd year.
Yeah,
maybe their 4th year, but they still work well.
Yeah, so I'll kick that down. I figured we would kick it down the road 1 year. Maybe we'll kick it down in the 2nd year. We'll see how they're performing come budget season next year. We did a the next thing on the list is a cybersecurity update. We did a cyber resilience review with Mike Tetrault from CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. It's part of Department of Homeland Security. He has not given us his preliminary report yet, but like one of the things he mentioned during the meeting was the biggest gap he saw were mostly in policy. Like we don't have policies to back up a lot of the things that we do, and he was going to give us a bunch of example policies. He had some concerns around information security policies, like not just in the computer, but like physical information, like how we don't have a policy written about who accesses what, and you know, we also don't have a key inventory, which apparently we're supposed to have, and there'll be a whole list of stuff. But he said that one of the things you could do right away that would address a lot of concerns for cybersecurity insurance companies is get a program like KnowBe4 that has the training built in, get all your staff members set up on it, and assign, you know, 1 or 2 10-minute trainings per month. And then over the course of a year, you've now built in 2 hours of IT training that people can do whenever they, you know, have some free time. Like Jim had said, oh, during a snow day, maybe we could assign that, or during a PD day, we could say, hey, you know, one of your assignments for a PD day is to do one of the assigned videos. So it's just watch a 10-minute video and answer a quiz, and it logs it that you've done it. And, you know, it's kind of nice. You can create your own little learning modules. So like the police chief, when we did our security walkthrough yesterday, said, you know, I know you guys have policies in place about keeping doors propped, but do you do any review training on that? We could throw like a security review in the mix through KnowBe4. Another way to push out training to staff and have it already recorded, and now we don't need anybody. You know, maybe we could push out the EpiPen training that way, and we don't need to sit through it at the first day of school and sign the little piece.
Oh my God, yes, please.
Around with. So yeah, it would be nice to have a little LMS we can use with the faculty to push out training when we have to. So it helps us with cybersecurity, because KnowBe4 has all kinds of stuff in there about how to recognize spam for what it is, how to recognize phishing. They do phish tests in a way that actually works, unlike the tool we have now. If we sign a 3-year deal with KnowBe4, they'll give us, I don't know, it was like $18,000 a year for all of our staff. But by the time they gave us the K-12 school discount and the 3-year signing discount, which I think goes up if you go to 5 years, and then there's another discount, they give us free another 10% or 20% off for switching to them from a different product, and they'll match the time that we still have left on our Sophos fish threat. So we'll get an extra year for free of KnowBe4. It ends up being like $5,000 or $6,000 a year. It's a no-brainer, especially if we're going to save $3,000 on Umbrella.
I am curious, Jeremy, do we have, does our network suffer a lot of cyber attacks?
So if you look at our firewall, we are constantly under attack, but most of the attacks are blocked. Where we're at risk is phishing. If someone were to click on a malicious link that didn't get blocked and let someone into their computer, now that person is on our network and can sit there and work on any vulnerabilities that exist in our network that we don't even know about. So that, I mean, that's how someone could get in. And that's one of the things that I want to address this summer by tightening up those boundaries so that you can't actually get to anything that we're worried about being vulnerable from the student and teacher network without using a VPN. So teachers don't need to have access to the HVAC system. They don't need to have access to all the other stuff that we use to run these buildings. You just need access to the internet. Like, I don't think there's any internal services that we're hosting. And if there are, then we can make them public facing through the appropriate tunnel and secure them properly. But generally, I just want to lock down the network access a lot more than it is right now. But yeah, that's the plan. Did that answer your question, Bob?
Yeah, just, and do we have we actually, are we prone to like having staff and students like click on the malicious links? Do you
So
like,
we got the Sophos fish threat a couple of years ago, and we used it, and we were actually, the first one I sent out had a pretty high click rate, and a few people got assigned the training. That was, but didn't really test the high school very well because it was an email about parking, and Chris Anthony immediately sent out an email saying, "That's not from me, don't click on it." So it wasn't a very good test.
okay,
KnowBe4 is nice because they pick, you could pick like 15, 20, 30 different emails to send out to staff, like different campaigns at the same time, and it picks one at random, and it schedules it over the course of, say, a week. So no one really knows. Everybody's getting something a little different, and it rotates through them. And also, a lot of their fish tests are actually like things that people have flagged as phishing. They call it fish flip. So there'll be a button in your email you can click on if you think something's phishing. And if it's if it actually was a test, it'll say, "Good job, thanks for finding this. You're doing a great job." If it's not, if it hasn't been reported, it'll say, "Thanks for reporting it. We'll check into it." Well, when they check into it, if it actually was a real fish threat, not only do they block it for everybody else, but they'll flip it around into a test for anybody who hasn't clicked on it yet. And if they do click on it, instead of going to the malicious site, they'll get assigned a remedial class for clicking on a bad email. So they're taking
That sounds like an
threats,
excellent
turning
idea.
it into, they take the real threats that people are getting and turn them into tests once they have identified them.
I need that for my mother-in-law.
Yeah, it's a really cool product. I mean,
That's cool.
so I don't know if you guys know, have ever heard of Kevin Mitnick? He was a hacker back in the day who he was on the FBI's most wanted list for a long time. He was on the run. Used to clone cell phones. That's how he was able to evade them for so long, because he would switch cell phone numbers like 3 or 4 times a day.
Wow.
Once he got caught and served his time, he was able to get early release by working with the FBI and the CIA to show them how to block. He wrote the book Ghost in the Wires.
Ghost, yes.
And then after he was done with his, work with the government, he teamed up with this company KnowBe4, and this is like, if you get training from Kevin Mitnick, where he comes out and talks to you, it's through KnowBe4. Like, that's his company. So
cool.
Yeah. So we're gonna look into that pretty hard. Classroom technology update. So I think some of you came down and looked at the board from Ockers, which I like. It's simple, it works. It doesn't have a ton of bells and whistles. It basically works as a whiteboard with touch, or plug in your computer. It works as a touch screen for your computer. You can also do wireless casting to it, and it just works. And that's what I was leaning towards using at Metcalf. And then the two outstanding boards that Wawaloom wanted, I was planning to take two of the Promethean boards at Metcalf and move them to Wawaloom so that Metcalf has all the same and Wawaloom has all the same. At the high school, I know you guys have been demoing the Samsung. Some people really like it. Some people are like, why bother? You know, so I originally budgeted just for screens for the high school, but there seem to be some people who are really, who would really see benefit from having the full interactive. So I didn't know whether we should go with the Samsung devices or the Ockers devices because they're about the same price. The thing about the Samsungs that I'm not sure I like is that they run a totally different operating system than all the rest of them. Instead of running Android, they're running, it's an open source platform that Samsung develops for like these smart TVs. And it makes you really dependent on Samsung because they're the only ones who make it. But you know, if that's the
do you remember which model has struggles with the MacBooks and using the MacBook or using this touch screen feature in conjunction with the MacBook?
That was
I think
the
it's a
model that
Samsung.
I had down here, wasn't it? The one that I did, that was their touch only model, the touch light.
Whatever model is at the high school being tested, that works really well as a touchscreen for a Chromebook, but it doesn't work so well as a touchscreen for a MacBook.
Okay. What if you
So
use
my vote would be
the Samsung wireless tools to cast your screen with touchback? Does that work better on a MacBook?
we haven't even tested that. I just had it using the USB cable.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, if it's already struggling,
And it was with two different teachers for whom that MacBook touchscreen feature didn't work, or it didn't work with the MacBook. So my vote would be not that one.
Okay, good to know. So maybe we will get a couple of the Ockers touch screens for a couple of the people who really wanted to see how they could implement that in their curriculum at the high school. And the people who said that they would be okay with just a plain screen will be the rest of the purchase because I don't have a lot of money to spend on touch screens because I didn't budget for those. And then we'll figure out what we're going to ask for next year.
I think that's a good way to go. Like, I'm not interested in the touchscreen for myself, so.
Right, but you were one of the people who did fill out the form. The people who were engaged and read mine and Art's emails and actually filled out the form are the people who I want to take care of first because they're invested. Why not?
Do you have an approximate number of total units that will go into the high school, both touch and non-touch?
Total or this year?
This year.
I think I budgeted for 12 and 12 at $1,300 a piece. So, I mean, that's $1,300 is what it costs for a, the prices have gone up a little bit. So it's going to end up being like $1,400 to put in a 75-inch flat panel with no touch. And then when you add in the touch, it goes up to, the size goes down to 65 and the price goes up to about $1,800 and then another $300 for installation, which puts us right back where we were with the pricing for Promethean boards without installation. So pretty happy about the savings there. I really don't want to install more than I have to. If we can have Ockers do it for us. And then for places that need a cart, instead, the carts are about $500 or $600. I really liked the Ockers cart. So, but like in Metcalf, the plan is to install most of them on the wall, but that extra classroom at each grade that may or may not be here each year, depending on how the class sizes work out, rather than moving boards that are attached to the wall, those flex classrooms will end up with a rolling cart. So that if this year this classroom is used for grade 4, but next year it's a math intervention classroom, I don't have to move the board off the wall. We could just take that, roll that TV to the 5th grade class that now needs the extra class because that cohort is bigger than the others.
I have a technical question,
Yep.
Jeremy. So as far as mounting those, in my room, like the optimum mount for me would be one that basically just slid straight up and down. So in other words, when I wanted to use it, I would slide it down in front of the whiteboard, and I wanted not to use it, I would just slide it up above the whiteboard. Is such a thing available?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So if you want it moved in and out of directly in front of your kids, I would recommend you opt for a cart.
Yeah, that's just super
If you
awkward.
want to pick a spot, like, one of the bulletin boards to the side of your whiteboard and have it mounted there all the time, that's an option too.
Okay, so I'll have to, and so are the mounts fixed, or are they at least can swing a little bit like the ones you buy for your house?
I haven't picked a mount yet, but I would imagine they're going to be fixed because these are commercial. It's going to depend on how much they weigh. I don't want anything that kids can hang on and have it come off the wall because, they're high school kids.
Right, yeah, see, next to my whiteboard is like over towards the door,
Right.
which just makes me a little bit nervous, like a kid's coming in and out, and
Well, we won't be able to cover up your clock and your intercom speaker and your phone. So
right, yeah, so I'm just thinking like
it's got to be on the other side.
So it almost seems like a cart would be the only. Okay. All right. I'll look around the room again and just try to figure out what I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through the list and reach out to the people who I'm planning to install it. And I actually might need to reach out to the principals and say, hey, I think at the junior high, I need some more names. So the principals will probably have some input on that too. So yeah, that's where we're at. And I'd like to get those in. I'm pretty sure the Ockers and the Samsung LCDs will be in pretty quickly because they have stock.
Jeremy and Bob, don't they make a sliding track mount for those that goes left and right though? I'm thinking Mystic Aquarium. I'm thinking it was Mystic Aquarium that I saw their board on a track mount that slid left and right. I don't know if I've seen one that goes up and down, kind of like what you described, but I think there was like a duo track mount that it slides to the left or to the right of your board. I don't know how your classroom set up, if that helps even though, but
it might. So Jeremy, would you be amenable to me like looking around to see if I could find a mount that might work?
Yeah, look around. I mean, keep in mind that we don't have a heck of a lot of money budgeted for a mount because we're just planning to use the plain old.
Oh yeah, I understand. I mean, and I would be willing to like pony up for like whatever the additional cost for a mount.
I mean, I'm sure that you could get a mount that slides like they have it at Mystic Aquarium. I'm just imagining that was a custom job that was several $1,000s, and we don't have that kind of money to spend on a mount.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
But those might
you to.
I have never seen one like commercially available. They could exist and they might be really cheap, and I just haven't looked. So I'll look into that too.
Okay, I'll take a look at mine too. All right, thank you.
So that's where I was with classroom technology. Any other questions?
Jeremy,
Yep.
We have a problem in the middle school with kids coming with uncharged iPads.
Okay.
It's just not having the number of we don't have a safe way for, if I have 4 kids that have uncharged iPads and they need to be using their iPads, there's not a safe way for me to have them plug them in. I don't know what the solution is other than.
Actually, I know what the solution is now.
Okay.
You know those battery packs that you can use to charge devices?
Oh, yes.
And I'd never thought of it. Like I have several, but I'd never thought of using it in a classroom until I was talking to Dave, who used to be the tech director at Tiverton. And then he moved over to be the assistant tech director at Foster Gloucester. And when Eric Butash left to go work for E+, he's now the interim and will probably end up being appointed at a relatively soon meeting to be the new tech director at Foster Gloucester. And he had said, you know, that's what we did in Tiverton, and that's what we're implementing here in Foster Gloucester. So he actually gives out spare devices to every teacher. He gives every teacher a spare student device and 2 of those charging things and says, this is what you get. I'm not sure I'm on board with a bunch of spares floating around that nobody's accountable for. I kind of like the way we have the main office of the junior high handle the spares for the junior high and the library handle the spares for the senior high. But I do like the charging block portable battery thing so that you can leave that charging overnight when you go home. And then in the morning, you've got it to loan to a student whose device is dead.
I love that idea, and I would love to have a couple. The spare device thing, by about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, all the spare devices in the office had disappeared. There was not a single one left.
Yeah.
They get left all over the place. Even the Chrome carts.
But that's why I had said several times that they should have the same type of system. If they're not going to have the library do it, they should use the same kind of system where you know who took that spare and they're accountable for it. So at the end of the year, if you got a spare out and you didn't return it, we're going to charge you like it's a lost library book. And all of a sudden they get found.
Yeah, I know even the Chrome carts, like kids walk in and take Chromebooks out of the Chrome carts. One kid had five Chromebooks in his locker.
Yeah.
Sometime this winter. So I don't let kids. I don't let kids borrow devices. But if I could have a couple of those chargers, I'd actually probably want like 3 if possible. Wireless charging if possible. I don't know if they make something easy.
They don't. I don't know that I would do wireless charging. It's very inefficient. I wouldn't want to run that off of a battery. But you know, you can use a short cord. So they have the device with like a 1-foot cord on their desk, and nobody's tripping on it.
Right. Yeah. No. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So I'll look into that. I don't know if I have the money in the budget, but you know, maybe we can get a couple to test it out with, and then budget for it for next year.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
No problem.
So Jeremy, I did have a question. I don't know if this is like in your purview or not, but in my room, there is an ancient television set that perches above my desk, just waiting to fall and kill me, that nobody will ever use again. Can I just like take that down and have them throw it away, or what should I do with that?
I have no problem with you taking it down. I'm sure maintenance will bring it down here to be recycled. I don't want to take that on as a thing that technology is responsible for, but if you would like to ask maintenance to take care of it.
I mean, I'm happy to take it down myself. It's not a big deal.
Just don't get hurt.
Yeah. Like 5 years ago, I wanted to do the same thing, and I was told, "Oh no, you have to put that on the inventory."
Yeah.
You know, and then they ask you to put the inventory and the value of that television set is like -$50, right? Because you got to pay.
It's going to cost us $5 or $10 to get rid of.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, so I'll just take it down, I guess, and hand it to the maintenance guy.
Although I might, you know, maybe we'll put them up on Craigslist, because from what I understand, a lot of the retro gamers are looking for tube TVs now, because it's just not the same playing it on an LCD. apparently.
Okay, well, you know,
Can't play Duck Hunt on an LCD. You need to have the photons, like
okay.
the ray tubes.
No, that would be awesome if we could sell the TVs for some money.
I don't care if we get money for it. I just don't want to pay to get rid of them. So if somebody wants to come take it, have at it. Speaking of which, while I have you here, I had a parent or a community member call me and say, I have a 2-year-old TV that half of it stopped working. Can I bring it in? And if you have any kids who want to try and fix it and they fix it, they can have it. I'm like, sure. So that's down here in a box. If you have any kids who are interested in looking at it, and if not, we'll recycle it. But either way, I told her we'd make sure that the device got either put to good use or recycled.
Okay, I'll keep it in mind.
Okay. So if you have some kids who are bored the last week of school and want a project, it's here. Any other things about classroom technology? Nope. Okay. Software and data privacy agreements. Not much to report there. Microsoft just signed our DPA, which I'm happy about. It makes me. There's also some. The Federal Trade Commission put out a memo warning all software developers who are publicly traded that they are going to start enforcing FERPA, and they should not be collecting student data without without having a signed agreement with the school district, making them in a public. I guess technically you make them an official of the school and allow them to collect the data with the understanding the data belongs to the school and the school can tell you to delete it. And that's what our DPA is doing, is establishing a relationship with them so that the data is still under our control. And any companies that are in violation of FERPA could face huge fines from the FTC. So I'm hoping that gets a lot more companies, big companies who ignored us, like Google and Adobe, to reconsider their position and start signing DPAs. Especially since we have a national DPA. You could sign it and then every other school district in the country could join onto it. And you're only paid your lawyers to look at it once. So I'm hoping that makes some headway. That's really the only thing I have to report under software data privacy agreements. And that brings us to the end of the agenda, where we share something awesome. So does anybody have anything awesome they want to share?
It's not technology related, but
That's
it
okay.
was an awesome sight last night, an event to watch the varsity volleyball team win against undefeated Lincoln. And everyone at EWG should be super proud of our boys, not only because they won and they played with heart, but they played fair, where the Lincoln coach was doing much less than that. And the game actually stopped for a long time while the referee dealt with that. And then at the end, when the team won, our team captain and another player left the celebrating crew of our EWG kids to go over and comfort a couple of the Lincoln players that were very emotional and distraught on the floor. So we have some good kids out there. And that was like a really great scene to kind of be a part of last night.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have anything awesome they want to share?
I do. My pawpaw trees that everybody's been anxiously awaiting something to happen with them.
Yeah.
They have little pawpaws on them.
Awesome.
I'm very excited.
Picking up pawpaws, put them in your pocket.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I had a solar system installed in the house last December. and we bought an electric vehicle as well. And we are now producing more electricity than we use. So our electric bill is now down to 0, and we are no longer paying for gasoline for that car anyway.
That's awesome. But I also have a solar system that was installed last October. My electric bill, I currently have a credit of like a negative $150. So it is really nice.
Yeah, awesome.
So I have a question for you guys with new solar systems. When you produce more than you use, do you just get a credit or do they actually send you a check?
So we get a credit that builds up on the account, and then the systems are designed to be net zero over the course of the year.
Mhm.
So from what I understand, if your system really is like if your usage goes down and you end up with a big credit, they will true it up once a year. If like it seems like you're not going to use up all those credits, they'll give you a check. But generally speaking, they want it to be net zero.
So Jeremy, are you in Rhode Island? You're living in
Yes.
Rhode Island? Yeah, because my understanding was that there's no way they're sending you a check, but
No,
they
they will
you can zero
under
out.
the right circumstances.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
But
I
what
think-
they'd rather do is keep that credit on your account for the future, and you can take those credits with you if you move. So you transfer your electric account. If
Right.
your new house doesn't have it, those credits come with you on your account.
Yeah, I mean, I did it just because, 5-ish years, 6-ish years, I'll be retiring and I want to have like no energy bills. So
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Mm.
I just like I really wanted to do something like I know that energy is a problem and I'm part of the problem and I wanted to be part of the solution, and I figured that was one step I could take with zero impact from my pocket overall, because if you add up my loan payment, it's less than I was paying for my electric bill. So that's where I was at. I was like, now's the time to do it where I can do something and it's not going to cost me more to be doing the right thing.
Good.
Which
I was
program did you use, Jeremy?
I went through the vast that, wouldn't you? I don't know. I'll look it up and send it to you.
Yeah, I'd be
I
curious.
can't remember off that, and I can't picture the sign that I have in my garage anymore. But I'll find how it says. I will say I did end up paying a premium for using one of those companies, but they handled everything for me.
Yeah.
If you know an electrician and you're handy, or you know people who could help you, and you buy the panels yourself, you can actually save money doing it. But you
Yeah.
then have to fill out the paperwork with National Grid and get it approved. But it's not hard. It's just work. And it's
Yeah,
not
my
National
brother-
Grid
my
anymore.
brother-
It's now Rhode Island Energy.
right. I would like to put in a plug for Newport Solar, who did mine 4.5 years ago, because they were phenomenal. And I actually get a monthly check because I got in under one of those net metering programs where I get 32 cents a kilowatt hour. It was designed to cover the cost of my panels as well as my electrical usage.
Wow,
And
that's
who did you use, Donna?
Newport Solar, and
Oh, Newport, yeah.
they're right in North Kingstown, and they're
Right.
expanding because they just opened a new office.
they're
So,
awesome. That's
Yeah.
what I use. They're really, really
I
awesome.
went through Trinity, and I would recommend you get quotes from local companies and do your shopping around, because I feel like I paid a premium. But
Yeah, when my brother had his and he did his own and put his own up, he also did he heated all his hot water with it besides generating and that was through like a whole separate system, a separate meter, as well as his electricity. And that was like a big undertaking, but it worked well for a long time until it ruined his roof.
but yeah,
And
yeah, pumping all your water up to the roof can be a problem if you
yeah,
stay on top of the maintenance.
yep.
I'm actually thinking of putting in a hybrid hot water heater instead, so that I'm using the electricity I'm generating to heat the hot water. with
That's
another
what
thermal
they
pump.
switched. Yeah. They switched to the thermal pump now.
I don't really want to pipe all my water up to the roof.
Yeah, we got one of those hybrid water heaters. Works good. And we switched over to heat pumps too, to heat the house.
Yeah, the heat pumps are way more efficient. So
And so it's just like no oil bills or anything anymore, or anything like that. It's just all straight electricity.
that's what I'm installing this summer. And then, oh, one of the something awesome. I didn't have anything, but I was talking to Mr. Ross about how we're running, like, to get connectivity out to the field for track meets. We have a wireless, like, point-to-point bridge, and then there's no power out there except at the concession stand. So we actually have like a pole with a couple of access points on top of it, and we run it off of a battery. And I was saying, we could add solar and run it off solar, but it's not, going to be very cheap. And Mr. Ross let me know that part of when the school switched to net metering, like they have a contract where we're buying our electricity from a company that's producing it at a solar farm and doing net metering. Part of that was having, like, originally they had looked at putting us like a solar farm here at the district, but it didn't work out. So that's why they decided to do the off-site farm to make up for it. But the part of the negotiation was to put a small solar system here on the property, which they're going to need to do soon. And I had recommended that what we use that for is to put power at the garage outbuilding down at the field and do an off-grid system and save us the cost of running power out there. And that would be able to run all the point-to-point links we need to get connectivity out to the field. And
Could lights go out at the field from that too?
I was looking at that. It could be possible with the right lighting designer.
Hallelujah.
So you'd have to have a pretty good size battery to run light, because obviously if you're running lights, there's no sun out, so you need to have a pretty good size battery system for it. And the real question is, could we get enough DC lights? Because if you tried to run AC, there's so much loss in the conversion and then the conversion back that you'd have. I don't know that we'd have.
We'd never power them for the length of
I think it would be possible, if not now, in the near future, with the advances they're making with LEDs and solar.
That would be awesome.
I agree. I mean, even if we couldn't get it lit to regulation standards for games, if we get it lit well enough for the standards for practice, that would be great. Because there's a certain number of foot candles you need to have for regulation game.
For a game, right?
Yeah.
But at least we could have it for like practices where we have so many different sports competing for that same space. It gives us more hours in the fall and winter.
Exactly.
Out there.
Yeah, that's definitely on my radar, and that's where we're headed. Art, do you have anything to share? It's your turn.
I think it's a DNS issue with my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I'm getting closer to solving it.
All right. So we're at the end of the meeting. Thank you all for joining us. And I'll probably schedule one for July if you guys can make, probably not the first week in July, because people do go do stuff. Maybe the second weekend in July, just so that for anybody who's interested, I can give you updates on where we're at. And I like getting your feedback. So yeah, thank you all.